information that right now we store in the applications also has growth exponentially. The universe includes financial information, personally identifiable information, protected health-related information, payment card data, intellectual property information, all of which require different levels of protection against all sorts of misuse, ranging from identity theft to corporate espionage to cyber terrorism. So, having a comprehensive list of threats and vulnerabilities will really set the baseline by which your entire program will be measured against. And it should create the awareness of the possible business consequences within your organization in case that there are a specific security breach. The second consideration that we have learned is that during the implementation of your metrics program, you may be tempted to define many different metrics. And having a wide set of data points to look at during different stages of your processes. We have learned it, and we have seen with our customers that in most of the cases, looking at too much data at a time may not be the best approach. So what we recommend is we need to take a step back to define the way in which we will identify these metrics. We will to define them, we will to organize them. We need to understand what's going to be the real benefit from gathering that information. And we need to make sure that our metric set is organized, classified, focused, integrated, and of course, managed. Once that we have that organization, once that we have visibility on the possible metrics that we can generate and that is in our interest to generate, we can identify a limited number of relevant metrics to avoid any distraction. This will facilitate the opportune decision making. The main purpose is to select the metrics that qualify as key performance indicators, so that we can review them in the right context and we can use them to track progress against our organizational goals. These key performance indicators should be goals-driven, easy to read, forecasting-enabled, and should also provide backward-looking capabilities so that we can analyze the historical impact of the actions that we performed in the past, and that we can learn from what we have seen as we move forward in our goal of solving the application security challenge. In order to provide this framework of metrics, the different way in which we can organize the metrics, we have identified several categories. For example, the strategic, which are metrics that are aimed to provide management with tools to make important decisions. They help us to define strategic initiatives and keep long-term business goals on track. We have also identified the tactical, which basically we conceptualize them as a set of data that allows security auditors to monitor the performance of the application, its utilization, and possible areas of improvement in the short term. The operational, which are metrics that are being used by the application security professional to manage the day-to-day tasks and operations. The challenge with this type of metrics is to limit the number of those that really help the frontline people in their daily activities. We have the compliance category, which are basically metrics that provide visibility of the process adherence to the business and its governing body's guidelines. And finally, we have the contractual metrics, which basically helps the application security leaders to ensure that the service providers, both for application development and application security services, are supplying adequate levels as agreed upon by contract. So these really help us to understand which are the different types of key performance indicators and which are the ones that will definitely provide us the most of the value. Our third consideration is that in order to generate effective data that can help you to put together your metrics program, we need consistently to follow the same basic steps every time that we perform an assessment to guarantee repeatability and reproducibility while producing actionable metrics. So that's why we stress the importance of defining a specific process that will allow you to identify the specific points in which you want to take the data points. As an example, we describe our typical assessment process, which basically allows us to identify the specific steps in which we want to gather data points. And we can guarantee that these data points will be captured independently of the auditor that is performing the actual assessment. Our processes allow us to define specific data gathering points in regards to the process cycle time, the assessment effectiveness, and the specific tool effectiveness as well, just to mention something. Some, however, make easier to identify the metrics that the business needs to look at. Once that we have your process, once that you identify the specific steps and which are the different groups that will be executing the tasks, you can define which are the specific data that you want to gather and somehow will be the basis to set your metrics program. Our fourth consideration is that we need to clearly define a procedure to rate the vulnerabilities in the context of the impact this may have on the business and the likelihood of a breach to occur. Having clear definitions for impact and probability is the first step towards an effective vulnerability rating system. By clearly defining the process and the way in which you will rate the vulnerabilities, we can ensure that the auditing team will follow exactly the same measure when rating all vulnerabilities, and that translates into data consistency. What we want at that point is to make sure that all the information that we are gathering and that we are centralizing can be comparable, that we are really comparing apples to apples. The beauty of having visibility on assessment results is the fact that you can tie them up to an application inventory, and that's our fifth consideration. Once that you perform the assessments, once that you have the data in your hands, you can centralize all that information and you can tie up the results of the assessments to the application inventory. That definitely will help you answer questions like how many applications does the company own, how many of the applications are outsourced development versus the internal development versus the third-party products that I'm implementing or deploying. How are these applications split by the business function? How frequently do these applications change? Which of the applications must comply with a particular industry regulation like PCI, HIPAA, SOX? And most importantly, what is the overall risk associated with all the applications? The benefit that this brings is that it helps to determine the size and complexity of the application portfolio and its risk exposure. And finally, our sixth consideration is the fact that at this point, you know that the data that you gather is comparable, that is consistent, and now you're in a position to put together the charts that will show the specific key performance indicators that you have selected that will benefit your organization. You will be completely